Let's start with the economic perspective on Iran then. How much do economic grievances actually play into this unrest? Because, of course, we know the country has been grappling with high unemployment and a sluggish economy for some time now.
Well, that's right. But that's also what's unique about these protests is that there wasn't necessarily an economic trigger, right? So it wasn't a sudden deregulation in prices or spike in inflation. Inflation in Iran is in double digits. It's been in double digits for many years.
I did see someone mention egg prices rising recently, though.
Sure. I don't know if that can necessarily be the trigger for a nationwide protest. To the extent that these protests are a reflection of the economic situation, and I think the jury, as Mr. Parsi said, is still out on that.
Right.
Donald Trump needs to be very careful what he wishes for on Twitter, because if there is kind of a scapegoat to Iran's economic problems post-nuclear agreement, it would be the U.S. administration, in the sense that Donald Trump continues to threaten to renegotiate the nuclear deal. That does not encourage foreign investors to enter the market, but also the position of U.S. correspondent banks threatening to cut off any other financial institutions, both in this region and Europe and elsewhere, if they do any Iran business. So again, to the extent that this is a problem of the economic environment, which I don't think it is, but to the extent that it is, I would say the U.S. administration is at least partly to blame in these problems.
Right. Now, you mentioned foreign investment just then. This is coming at a time when Iran is trying to bring in outside capital, especially from the non-U.S. parts of the world, such as Europe. How much of a headwind is social unrest going to be when it comes to that?
It certainly doesn't help, but I think at this point we have to think about, what are the prospects that these protests are actually going to spiral out of control, grow a lot larger to the same extent that we saw in 2009. Right now, I would think that probability is quite low. It doesn't mean that they can't continue, but I think in the broader Iran investment climate, if you look at these protests versus the threat of the Iran nuclear deal coming undone, the bigger risk for foreign investors is definitely the latter.